I'll be with you all in just a minute. I'm just getting a coffee. Hello everyone. How is everyone? Just making sure everything's okay here. It seems to be. Hi Keith and Phil, Fiona, Mohammed. You can have a coffee. Yes, I even have to make my own coffee. I have to do everything. It's terrible. It's been a slow news day today, guys. It's been a slow news day. There's not much going on in the world, really. Not much to talk about. What a disaster. What a disaster. Hi Anna, hi Chicken, hi Good Dog, Zombie in the Air, how are you? Random Gamers, Silent Witch. Hi everyone. I don't know whether I should just get into this because we've got, what, 60 or 70 people watching already. Hi from Saskatchewan, says Shane. One of the coolest names ever. Saskatchewan. So, today has been one of those days. It's been one of those days. What an absolute shower. You got to laugh at what's happening. You've got to laugh at what's happening in this country because otherwise you will cry. You will cry. It's incredible. It really is. Absolutely incredible. Hi Jeff Haffer. Hi Ian. Hi Dave. From Wales, are you? I can't do a Welsh accent. I always end up sounding Pakistani. Let's get into this because hi everyone. So today, what's the date? The 4th of December 2018 will go down in history as one of the most important days in British history, entire political British history, because for the first time ever today, ministers have been found in contempt of Parliament, which is, now we don't know which ministers, by the way, yet. It's still got to be decided. They could all be locked in prison tomorrow. Who knows? Obviously, that's not going to happen, but we can wish. We can go over to the Houses of Parliament right now, actually. Let me just set this up because the Houses of Parliament are still answering questions and obviously they've still got a hell of a lot to do tonight. They're probably going to be up until 5 a.m. and this is what the scene looks like at the moment. And there's the Tory government crashing down. All the way down. There's Gove gone. He's gone. Angela Leadsom still talking while this is all going on. You can guarantee that that's happening. That is the Conservative government right now in this country. Right now. This is a disaster. So this could very well lead to a vote of no confidence in the next 48 hours. but there are so many different possibilities as to what can happen right now. To be honest, I'm a little confused because, like I say, we are the first. This is the first government in history to be found in contempt of Parliament. This is all to do with that guy who's called Geoffrey Cox, who's the Attorney General to the government, and he looks, as you can see here, like somebody who just knows. As somebody pointed out, he's going to be the answer to at least one pub question for the foreseeable future in every single pub quiz up and down the country. The government and him have said that they're not going to release the full legal advice that have given the government. Now, obviously, there was a vote a few months ago, might have been in November actually, to say that they should have. So they have gone against what Parliament actually voted for. And they are saying this is in the national interest. Now, this is leading to many people to speculate that there is more in this advice than they are making out, that actually it's going to be worse than what we know at the moment. We'll see tomorrow when the paper is published. We'll see what's inside it. Personally, I won't be looking for what they've hidden at all and what they were trying to hide. I'll actually be looking for what really was the excuse for them to give that we're not going to publish this because doing so is against the national interests. That's what I'm going to be looking at, because they use this as a sweeping brush, don't they, in the national interest, and it goes against, the national interest. They do it with D-notices all the time. So I'll be looking at that tomorrow to see exactly why they wouldn't publish this paper, or whether it was just one of those ridiculous excuses they usually give out. So they've got to publish this illegal advice tomorrow. Technically, he could and should, this Geoffrey Cox, be in a prison inside Big Ben at the moment. Technically, he could. Technically, Theresa May. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lan Rothman. That's very, very kind of you. Is it Ilan Rothman? You're awesome. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. It's always nice when somebody says something nice. But yeah, technically Theresa May could be in the Tower of London, or should be in the Tower of London overnight until this full advice has been given. So they've voted it down. What do we know now, and what have we learnt from today? Well, what we've learnt from today is Brexit can be cancelled. Legally, that's the advice from the Attorney General, that Brexit can be cancelled, it can be stopped. He also found in those documents that we could be tied to the EU indefinitely, because essentially what we're doing is letting them be the arbiters of whether we exit this agreement or not. And if they say no, we can't. I suppose we knew that already, but he confirmed it today. It's possible, as I said, he could be sent to Big Ben, but I don't think that will happen. And with regards to what happens now going forward, all options are on the table. All of them. And the reason all options are on the table is because they also lost a second vote in the Houses of Parliament. I think they called this the Grieve vote or something like that. And that one was just as big, really, because in losing that one, essentially Theresa May, who has been saying for the last 10 days or 2 weeks or so, it's my deal, or no Brexit at all, essentially that vote almost takes no deal off the table. It means that the government will have a final say on amendments, etc. And so those who were scared and worried about a no deal and what the possible repercussions of that, maybe you can sleep a little easier tonight knowing that the MPs have the final say. And it's highly unlikely that the MPs would vote for a no deal. So that's pretty much smashed Theresa May's it's my deal, no deal, or no Brexit at all scenario, of which I said was a bluff anyway a few days ago. This has been an absolute shambles, to be quite honest. An absolute shambles of a day. And more importantly, it's highlighted just how much of a shambles this government is, because for this to happen in the first time in history, I mean, we're going back hundreds of years here. It's not like we're a country that's only 5 minutes old, but this is unprecedented for this to happen. Totally unprecedented, and it's happened under Theresa May's and the Tories government. And the reason it's happened, of course, is because they are protecting the United Kingdom from breaking up, and they will not answer the question on Northern Ireland. They do not want to answer that question. They don't even want to ask the question. They don't want to ask the people of Ireland what they want, which I think is just, at least ask them. What do you want? So we'll see. And that's the state of play with regards to, at the moment, we don't know what is going to happen going forward. We know that a no-deal Brexit is slightly less possible, but again, it is possible. Nothing is off the table at the moment. And my favourite clip of the day sums the whole thing up. It comes from Jacob Rees-Mogg, and he said this.
We're not the pantomime season quite yet.
Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are, because that's exactly what this is, Jacob Rees-Mogg. This is a pantomime, and the reaction to him saying that said it all.
All right, I give in on that one, Mr. Speaker. I am defeated on that particular point, but not on the substantive one.
That's what it is. It's a pantomime. Now, I've been looking at all possible scenarios. There is a possible scenario that Jeremy Corbyn could be Prime Minister by Christmas. I tell you now, that is a possible scenario. Other possible scenarios, all deals are on the table. Theresa May could resign in the morning. Theresa May, let's face it, probably would have resigned by now if she was anybody else. So if she hasn't resigned by now, chances are she won't. I'm never writing that woman off ever again. But that's the situation at the moment. A complete pantomime in the UK government. And I, for one, am quite embarrassed of the way they have acted on our behalf. I don't know about you. Hi everyone. W. Leon says they are finished, just a matter of time before they are hurled out of Parliament. I honestly get that feeling too, Mr. Leon. I honestly get that feeling too. It's a matter of time now before we end up with a general election. That's what we need. We've got to have a general election just to go back and just to try and get both sides to come out with some sort of deal and vote for whichever one. We've got to. And I really hope that Remain is not on the ballot, because we've already had that vote, in my opinion. Skullman says the Grieve Amendment also passed with 321 and 299. This basically prevents a no-deal Brexit. Yeah, that's basically what I said, Skullman. It's it puts the last say back in the court of the MPs, is what it does, and they're highly unlikely to say no deal. Especially looking at what the Bank of England and Mark Carney reported and forecast last week. Of course, people will say, well, they're just forecasts and they've never been right in the past, to which they are correct. But I can't imagine that financially we're going to be in too good a position after exiting the EU. JC knocked it out of the park today, says Trisha. You know what? He's been playing a blinder. He really has. He's been playing a blinder, the guy has. And I've got to show you this picture, because I saw it earlier, and it really did. When I was looking at the outcomes, the possible outcomes, I was thinking. I was looking at the possible outcomes, and there is a possible outcome where Jeremy Corbyn is Prime Minister by Christmas. That is a possible outcome. So you can imagine. And there was something to do with the 14-day period after this vote that I read. And to be honest, this is not going to happen. It's highly unlikely. But there is a likelihood that Christmas Day, there is a possibility that Christmas Day, people will be waking up to that. There is a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but at the moment, anything could happen. I would hate to try and forecast at the moment what is going to happen, because you know what? I don't think anybody knows. The people who are doing this, the people who are supposedly carving out this deal and coming to the arrangement, just don't know what they're doing. It's plain to see. 2.5 years and they still haven't sorted anything out. It's pathetic. It really is. The only way that they really could have got to this situation and this scenario as it stands right now is if that was by design. And they have been kicking the can down the road all the time, like I say. They will not answer the question that people like me have been asking constantly, and they still won't. You're not going to get a Brexit without asking that question, I'm afraid. You're just not. I realise that some people are quite attached to the union, but if you want a Brexit, that's pretty much what's going to happen. It's got to happen if a border in Northern Ireland is off the table. But he has, yeah. He's played a blinder. He's really been nailing her on policy and the state of the country. And M. Oz says, I heard May resigned. Don't get my hopes up. Don't get my hopes up. I'm sure she hasn't. I'm sure she hasn't. She's got alligator blood. Let me set up this next story. Airborne Assassin says the debate was staged at the Bent BBC. Of course, he's going to decline that debate. He has. The BBC have pulled out. That came out a few hours ago. Yeah, he's pulled out. Sorry, the BBC have pulled out. So, as I understand it, ITV are still in talks. So we'll see if that happens on Sunday before the final of I'm a Celebrity. Get me in the jungle so I can eat a crocodile's anus and become famous again. I take the piss out of that show, but to be honest, it's pretty much the only show on television that I do try and catch up with. Nigel Farage has left UKIP, says the Random Gamers. Yes, he has. This is after UKIP gave Tommy Robinson a consultation position. You know your party is lurching too far to the right when even Nigel Farage is saying, okay, this is a little bit too racist for me. That's it's not good. It's not good. Jeremy Chase, as an American, that would be the best Christmas present ever. There is a scenario. I was reading through it earlier. I know George Galloway was talking about it on Friday as well. There is a scenario where Christmas Day, Jeremy Corbyn could be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, which is just what a lovely Christmas present that would be. Well, I just don't think that's I don't think that is a likely outcome, shall we say. Yeah, she hasn't backed down, Schoolman. She hasn't backed down. The BBC have just backed out because they couldn't come to an agreement on the format. I said in the week that Jeremy Corbyn should just dig his heels in, and I think I said on a video as well. Tell them now. Just say do the debate on ITV under your terms and your format. If she wants it, you describe the terms. You define the terms. She's got everything to gain from this and absolutely nothing to lose at this point. So, he's the one holding all the cards. And if she's not going to bend to what he wants during ITV, just don't do it. That's my opinion on it. Don't do it. The Funkadelic fan says if they don't back a no-deal Brexit, then we stay. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I was thinking about, because if they don't back a no-deal Brexit and that's the last option, then the only option left after that is to say, right, okay, we cancel Article 50 and we stop in the EU. It's a distinct possibility that could happen, and if that does happen, the police are going to have their work cut out for them, because there's a far-right riot on Sunday. It's a far-right riot. It's not a riot. That was a total mistake. There's a far-right rally, not riot. It's probably going to turn into a riot now. I know I've said that. Fraudulent slip. It's a far-right rally in London on Sunday. So we'll see what happens over the next few days, but they are going to be rallying to just say respect the result from the 2016 referendum, and I hope that it goes down without incident. I hope that it happens without incident, and I hope they have the good sense to demonstrate and to protest the same sort of way the people in the Extinction Rebellion did the other week. So I'm looking forward to that on Sunday. We'll see how that transpires. If they cancel Brexit, there will be riots. There will be riots. The BBC couldn't find enough bad actors pretending to be vicars, says Sean Calder. Hi, Sean. I'm just wondering if I've got that clip. I haven't got the clip lined up. Damn, I haven't got the clips lined up. It gets worse. There was an episode in 2013 of a BBC programme called The Thick of It. I don't know whether you people, you were aware of this. And it was all about sort of governmental, inside governmental workings, reaching out to the press, etc. And there was an episode that they did in The Thick of It where they got this woman in on a focus group, and she was great. This woman was great, so they got her in to have a one-to-one, etc. And it turns out that she was an actress. And it actually went and happened to Newsnight 5 days later. RT picked that up. If you go to RT, I think it's RT UK's channel on YouTube, they've got a little couple of minute segment on it. It's just, you couldn't make it up, except they did 5 years ago. They already did. Just a ridiculous story. JC on Christmas morning, says Ian Clark. I know. Don't get your hopes up though. It's very unlikely that is going to happen. Could JC do the Queen's speech, as I'm sick of that woman spoiling my Christmas, says Sean Calder. I haven't seen the Queen's speech since my nan was alive. My nan used to watch it every year, and I haven't seen the Queen's speech. Yeah, since I went to dinner at my nan's, and that's got to be 20, 30 years ago. It's the last time I watched the Queen's speech. Somebody's just made somebody's just mentioned the yellow vest. Gordon, I hear they are buying their yellow vests. I assume Butch 1976 says. I assume you mean the people on the far right on Sunday. The yellow vests have won. The government in France have capitulated, and just in case you're not aware, they have postponed rolling out this carbon tax, or cancelled this carbon tax for 6 months whilst they investigate. This is what happens when you've got neoliberalism. This is what happens when you've got neoliberalism. They show you the lion, so you run towards the wolf. And they had the lion in France with Le Pen, so they ran towards a centrist investment banker in Macron, a neoliberalist through and through. And then he rolls out this carbon tax. People are suffering, man. And you just look at the taxes that he's passed. There was a graph that I saw. I'm going to do a video on this, I promise, over the next few days, because I noticed the tax laws that he'd passed. The bottom, like 10%, all lose out. The bottom 10% all lose out. And then from the 11th percentile up to the 99th percentile, they're all better off. And then the 1%, it's off the frigging chart as to how much they're off. It's off the chart. It looks to me like he's been passing tax bills very similar to that of Trump in America. And this is what neoliberalism gets you. It's economically and it's economically the same as a neoconservative government. They're just as much of war hawks as a neoconservative government, but they're okay with abortion and they're okay with gay rights and that sort of thing. It goes back to that video that I did the other week, that people couldn't quite understand. You have got two choices as far as I'm concerned with this Brexit. You've got a neoliberal government inside the EU, or a socialist government outside of it. Those are the two choices. I want the latter, obviously. I don't want the former, because global neoliberalism, that's what the EU personifies. It's a neoliberal construct. Just look at it. That's exactly what it is. And I think this is something that the left and the right in this country could actually come together on. Progressives and the right, they could come together on it, because we do agree with that. We do agree that the main fight in this country, the main fight is against global neoliberalism, if you like. That's what the fight is against. That's what the far right are fighting against. That's what the progressives and Labour movement, that's what they're fighting against as well. Jeremy Corbyn even mentioned it yesterday in his speech. Theresa May threw a wobbler because he mentioned global neoliberalism. That's the cause of this. That's what we can fight against. JC friends with AMLO, says Trisha. Yeah, well, I watched that speech. It was great. And he brought that up in the questions to Theresa May, and obviously she threw back the Venezuela thing at him. It's like, so lazy. Come on, it's so lazy. Anybody who knows anything about foreign policy knows that Venezuela, one of the main reason that they are struggling right now is the horrific sanctions that us in the US are putting on them, along with the IMF and NATO, UN, etc., etc. Now, that's the reason why, yeah, they've made mistakes in Venezuela, but, I mean, these crippling sanctions, they're worse than at the height of the sanctions against Nicaragua in the 80s. They're worse. The fact that they're still going, that the government is still going, is testament to just how unpopular he is, because most other governments would have collapsed by now. That's the whole aim of these sanctions, is to try and get the government overthrown. It's not to punish him for doing anything wrong, Not to punish him for doing anything wrong at all. You look at this. The Tories are now in contempt of Parliament, the United Nations, human rights and the environment. That's us. That's the UK. That's what we are. That's what our government is in contempt of. Parliament, the United Nations, human rights and the environment. And then we have the balls to be pointing fingers at Venezuela and Syria and Russia. Hello, Pot. My name's Kettle. David Lazarus says, I voted for Brexit because of the neoliberalism and the way they treated Greece. I have no problem with immigrants working here. Same here, mate. Same here. The way they treated Greece was just awful. It really was. The Atlantic Council at Work, says B Green. I couldn't have said that better myself. I really couldn't. Right, I want to get to this story, everyone, because this really pissed me off the other day. Hi, everyone. So, George Herbert Walker Bush died last week. It's very sad. He was 94 years old. Obviously, death comes to us all. Now, I'm not one for believing the saying, you should not talk ill of the dead. I don't believe that. My question to that is always why? Why shouldn't we talk ill of the dead? I mean, I understand, pissing all over the memory of a dead, to save the family or the family's anguish from any remarks you might make. I totally understand that. That's fine. But why not, if somebody was a horrible person, then why not say it when they've died, when you remember them? However, the media in America and in this country as well, for the most part, I'm talking specifically the broadcast media here and cable media in the UK, in the US, and over here, fawned all over him. Absolutely fawned all over him. They didn't have a bad word to say about the man. Now, I remember George Herbert Walker Bush. I remember him as the man that lied to get us into the first Gulf War. I remember that. And I don't think of him too highly as a president, strangely enough, because my memory lasts more than 5 minutes. Whereas people in the media, well, their memory seems to change. But there was a guy on Twitter called Joshua Clark Davis, who just wrote a little story about one of the horrible things that George Bush did. And if you don't know this story, strap yourself in, because you're going to be quite angry at what I'm about to tell you. I'm just going to read this and then, give my thoughts in between. So this is Joshua Clark Davis on Twitter. President George Bush wanted to show America what crack cocaine looked like at his first Oval Office address on September the 5th, 1989. He wanted to show you could even buy crack in front of the White House. That's how bad the crisis had gotten. That's how Bush announced his war on drugs. This is one of the legacies from George Bush's time in the White House, his war on drugs. But there wasn't much crack sold near the White House. Really? You do surprise me. As a US Park police officer explained, quote, "We don't consider that a problem area. There's too much activity going on there for drug dealers. Easy solution. Invite somebody to sell crack outside the White House." The DEA caught wind of Bush's plan and they set about arranging a deal for Lafayette Square across from the White House. DEA agents plan to lure someone there to sell them a small amount of crack. Later, a White House official claimed no one requested the DEA make the purchase. On August the 31st, DEA Special Agent Sam Gay was approached by his boss and asked if he could make a crack purchase from just across from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The DEA's first choice ended up not showing up, so agents went to work on a second choice. So they set a trap for the first guy and he didn't turn up. But the second choice was Keith Jackson, an African-American resident of Anacostia, a 19-year-old high school senior who agents had been in contact with for months. This sounds like a high school senior who's like a low-level, end-level drug dealer. Jackson plus Bush lived in the same city, but they lived worlds apart. DC was deeply segregated, 2/3 black, but a city where most whites cloistered in the northwest corner. The halls of power on the federal government were shut off to most black DC residents too. "Where the fuck is the White House?" Jackson asked in a secret recorded call with an undercover DEA agent. That's how segregated DC was. He didn't know where the White House was. The agent had to explain the location to Jackson, who eventually replied, "Oh, you mean where Reagan lives?" So this guy, he's a bit of a dumbass. Let's face it. He's not educated, he's a low-level drug dealer. Agents lured Jackson to Lafayette Square where they made a small purchase from him, but didn't arrest him on September the 1st. So you can see what's happened here. Bush has come out and made a speech saying that I could buy crack from the front of the White House, and the DEA have gone out, setting it up to push his narrative. On September the 5th, President Bush held up a bag of crack on national TV. I remember him doing it. "This is crack cocaine seized a few days ago in a park across the street from the White House. It could easily have been heroin or PCP. Angel dust, as that is called. Without getting too deep into the details, Bush's central point was this: we need more jails, more prisons, more courts, and more prosecutors. And obviously more private prisons, so we can all profit from them. DEA agents had decided not to immediately arrest Jackson, not sure why, but it seems they thought the story of a White House drug bust would make the news and undercut the drama of the president's address. DEA agents worried Jackson would see the address and hear Bush discussing the Lafayette Square purchase and flee, but they were happy to learn that Jackson, quote, had absolutely no idea what went on with the national address, and they easily arrested him after the speech. So they didn't want to arrest him before because that might make the news and undercut the president. They waited for the president to make his speech and then they arrested him. Many applauded Bush's story of the arrest, but Kevin Zeese, a defense attorney specializing in drug cases, didn't. He said, quote, it's disgusting. The situation is not bad enough that they have to create a false situation. It's the government creating a hoax so they can rev up the war effort. Kevin Zeese, if you're aware of that name, I've talked about the guy. I've talked about the guy in his interview he did with Eleanor Goldfield on Act Out. He was the one who came back from Venezuela and explained, the Venezuelan voting system is one of the best in the world, far from it being rigged. It's actually unriggable. So Kevin Zeese is a clever guy. Proper activist. Keith Jackson was charged and then tried 2 times in his senior year. Charged 2 times? So they arrested him, charged him twice. Once in December 1989 and then in January 90, trying to get a conviction for this thing that they set up themselves to make Bush look good. Both times it ended in a hung jury. Both times. Prosecutors tried him a 3rd time and finally got the conviction. So they had to try him 3 times. But it gets worse because at sentencing, US District Judge Stanley Sporkin told Jackson, who had no prior criminal record, so it's the first offence for him, that he regretted having to impose the sentence of 10 years without parole. At the same time, Sporkin urged Jackson, 19, to ask Bush for a commutation, so the judge obviously could see what had gone on here. It's plain as day. Sporkin, quote, he used you in the sense of making a big drug speech, said Sporkin, former CIA general counsel appointed to court by President Reagan in 1986, quote, but he's a decent man, a man of great compassion. Maybe you can find a way to reduce at least some of that sentence. Sporkin apparently thought 10 years was too harsh for a little bit of crack cocaine on a first offence, which is a setup to make the president look good on TV, but regretted, I've got to follow the law. Congress had recently passed a new mandatory minimum law as part of the anti-drug abuse of 1988. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. Bush never commuted the sentence of this young man. Never commuted it. According to one historian, Jackson served almost 8 years for the sale in 4 different prisons until being released in 1998. This is a major part of Bush's legacy. It's what the war on drugs did to just one person, but it shows the human costs of that war in miniature detail. A high schooler was lured to the White House to sell crack and spent over 7 years in prison so that President George Herbert Walker Bush could make a point on TV. And like I say, it gets worse because at the bottom there, Joshua Clark Davis has written this. Also a clarification. Despite 2 hung juries on the White House sale, prosecutors finally got convictions on 2 unrelated pre-September 1989 charges. Only after Bush's address, plus the first mistrial did the feds feel it necessary to charge him on prior acts. Seems they wanted to prove a point. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the real legacies of George Herbert Walker Bush. And this is a similar story for presidents, US presidents going back however long you want, both Republican and Democratic. Bill Clinton continued that war. Bill Clinton made money then from exploding the prison system as a result of what Bush did, following on from what Reagan did before him. Obviously, his son carried on when he had his 8 years in office in the 2000s, and then Obama just carried on now, and it's made its way for Trump. But here's the thing, and here's why I'm not the only one who's made this connection. Here's why we make a big deal out of it in independent media when the mainstream media go overboard in their praise of, let's face it, liars and war criminals, and like George Herbert Walker Bush. Like I say, I don't mind speaking ill of the dead. They can't hear you. They're recently dead. But I'm not somebody who's going to trample on somebody's memory just for the sake of it. They've got families. Their families could be hurt. But when the media go overboard in their praise of people like Bush, who lied, who's a war criminal, who destroyed lives like that lad Jackson, what the media are doing by whitewashing is they're painting over all the bad things he did. They are normalising that behaviour. It's normal now. Presidents can basically do what they want. They can put black kids in jail just to make a point on TV. They can kill 500,000 Iraqis and then go on Dance on Ellen. It's normalising war criminals. And it's making the future be a place where these sort of acts are much easier to not just happen again, but get worse. This is why the Fourth Estate is so important. We have to hold power. We have to hold power accountable. It's the media's job. But they're not doing it. Quite frankly, what I'm seeing over the last 12 months especially is I'm seeing a ramping up of things and acceleration, especially on the abdication of the media's duties. They've just abdicated it. They are not the Fourth Estate anymore, as Patrick what's his face said the other day at 21 Wire. They're not the Fourth Estate anymore. They're the fifth column. It's time to take back the Fourth Estate, and that's with independent media. Because although we won't shit on somebody's memory just for the sake of it, we're certainly not going to whitewash and normalise war criminals, because that is just going to make it easier to happen in the future. Blair. I'm glad it's lit up with Tony Blair, that comment section has. Tony Blair, exactly. You know, he was on BBC the other day and I was just thinking, why are you normalising this bastard? He lied. He lied to the whole country. We know for a fact that he knew at least 7 months prior to the invasion that the Americans had no intelligence at all. It was all false, the intelligence they had, that he had weapons of mass destruction. Do you remember the fear-mongering? 45 minutes for him to launch a weapons of mass destruction on the UK or the US. Do you remember? 45 minutes, that's all. They scared the shit out of us, they did, in the media. He went off, he lied. Innocent people have got killed. Our troops have got killed. American troops have got killed. People on the ground, innocent women and children, mutilated. They are still seeing the repercussions of that war. And what happens? Is he sent to prison? No. He comes on the fucking BBC every 5 minutes to talk about Brexit and why we shouldn't have the referendum. We should have a second referendum. That's what he wants. Well, Tony Blair has never been one to actually, take notice of fucking democracy, has he? That man, I swear to God. How can they keep letting him go on these TV channels? How can they keep letting him go on there? It's normalising war criminals, for Christ's sake. He should be a pariah. Blair the war criminal. War criminal Tony Blair, that's what I call him. James Lindsay, we praise our war criminals here in the West. Exactly. It has to stop. It has to stop. Because otherwise, going forward, you've just normalised a war criminal. Now, whatever Trump does, hey! Whatever Trump does, George Bush did it, his dad did it, Obama did it, Clinton did it. Blair said he was sorry, then said he would do it again, says the Mycroft. I know. I'm sorry for doing that thing I would do again. Really, are you? That thing that cost 500,000 lives? Asshole. I remember him going on about his faith and how it was the right thing to do. Disgusting. I remember that zombie in the air as well. I remember thinking, oh yeah, great. He's just got off. He's just got off totally from that. And his excuse is, hey, what can I say? I believe in a mythical being in the sky. Aziz correctly says depleted uranium used in Iraq. Blair the dog should be hung alongside Bush and China. Yeah, that depleted uranium that he used. Like I say, there's still repercussions to this day. There's still kids being born deformed as a result of the depleted uranium. That I'm not sure whether we used it. I think that was the Americans who used it, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear that we were involved somehow. We certainly were alongside the Americans in that war, weren't we? R.I.P. David Kelly, says Patrick. I concur. Trisha K says, they still love Blair at The Guardian. Tells you all you need to know about The Guardian, doesn't it? Really? Shower of shit. I'm just trying to remember whether I've actually got this... talking about The Guardian. Just trying to remember whether I've actually got... Oh, yeah, I have. I think it's number 8. Because I've got to... Yeah, I've got to talk about that Guardian article. In fact, I'll go into it now. Thank you, Jeremy Chase. We limit our pariahs to those who tell the truth. Not many people do nowadays, though, do they? Everybody's got a friggin' agenda. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that, mate. David Kelly paid the price of telling the truth, says Sean Calder. Isn't that David Kelly who said there are some shady people about? I'm going to get found dead in the woods. Is that what David Kelly said? And then the next thing you know, he's suicided. All right, there is something else I want to talk about here. Oops, wrong one. Hi everyone. I don't know whether you've noticed, but there's Russians everywhere. These pesky Russians. They are just everywhere. Bots, reporters, spies. They're all over the place spreading their disinformation. Of course, this is all nonsense. This is just a manufactured thing from the British media. What they call disinformation, I call truth that the British government don't like. Because if the British public find out about it, they'll be pissed off at the British government. That's what I call Russian disinformation. Truth. Questions. That's what I call Russian disinformation. It's just information. Just because if it comes from Russia, it doesn't matter. If it's true, it's still true. If it comes from Russia, it doesn't matter. And this article in the Guardian, you may remember. Yeah, actually, I haven't got that lined up, but there's an article in the Guardian that I covered the other day. It was just an arse gravy of an article. It really was. It was written by Luke Harding. When I drop this video, I'll put a link up there. And it was not based in any sourcing whatsoever. You could see it was literally, it might as well have just been written by somebody at MI5, MI6 or GCHQ. You can tell that is where it came from. And it faced a backlash from people. Now, obviously, the mainstream media ran with it as if it's true, and so did the Young Turks, by the way. Well done, the Young Turks, for running that as if it's true and not actually fact-checking it whatsoever, because you have pretty much proved to the world now, TYT, that you are establishment media. You have become the very thing that you were meant to be destroying. You've become it. Congratulations. Because what is establishment media? Establishment media is the media that sycophantically suck up to the establishment and do the establishment's bidding instead of holding them accountable. And I know people say TYT, they hold them accountable. They're trying to get money out of politics, and that's great. It really is. But if you're reporting that Guardian article like it's fact, then one of two things is happening. Either you're fucking stupid or you're lying on purpose. One of those two things. Ken Klippenstein did a story yesterday on how through Freedom of Information Act requests, he managed to find out that the IDF, the Israelis, had actually told Trump not to cut the aid to Gaza as much as he did because they thought it was cruel. That's, if you want to attack Trump from a progressive standpoint, oh my God, that's perfect. You doesn't get a better story than that. Even the Israelis thought Trump was being too harsh on the people from Palestine. Even the Israelis thought that. You want to attack Trump from a progressive standpoint, that is the way you do it. Ken Klippenstein did brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They could do that. But no, instead, they report on full stories from The Guardian, as if it's fact. I've got that off my chest. I was going to do a video about that, but I thought, no, I can't do it. But I got it off my chest. They are establishment media now. They're establishment media. Because when you look at the story of the way TYT have covered things, and you look at their story over the last 2 years, and you think, well, why are they reporting on things this way? And you know the story as I do. There are two things that flash out you in big neon lights, and that's Jeffrey Katzenberg, Democratic Kingmaker, $20 million investment. It's flashing like that. Democratic Kingmaker. $20 million. Why else are you pushing a DNC narrative when it's blatantly false? Why else would you throw all of your journalistic integrity overboard and follow that narrative that comes from the DNC? Why else would you? I'm serious, I'm asking. Because I really want an excuse not to call TYT establishment media right now, but I'm coming up short. Anyway, that article that I was talking about, you may be aware, people thought they'd better do some damage control because nobody online, nobody with any sense whatsoever who read that article in The Guardian believed it. So Politico, and this was in the law and order section of Politico, had an article written by Alex Finlay. Now, if you don't know who Alex Finlay is, join the club because nobody else does. The person doesn't exist. It's an alias. It's not even a real person. It's some ex-intelligence, ex-CIA guy who came on to Politico to write an opinion piece saying that the story that Luke Harding and The Guardian released, actually, if it's not true, the Russians sent it him and he's been duped by the Russians. What that is creating a non-falsifiable claim. Because you're saying, oh, no, that's true. And if you say it's not true, then he's saying, oh, well, if it's not true, the Russians. So if it is true, the Russians. And if it's not true, the Russians. Non-falsifiable claim. They do this all the time. Watch out for it. And they've had to, obviously, write that piece to try and, assuage people's fears who thought that the Guardian article, who correctly deducted that the Guardian article was bullshit. So they've wrote a piece in Politico trying to dispel any fears. Oh, well, if it is wrong, Russia did it. And then, I apologise for the source, but I saw this. Russian TV spies are caught at top secret UK army base. How fake news team tried to infiltrate British psychological warfare unit. That's the headline. That's the headline. All it was a Russian TV anchor was standing outside a UK army base, and it's the UK army base, by the way, that deals in the psychological warfare unit. So there's a very good chance that they will have bot farms there, or they will have their own, people on social media spreading disinformation. It's very possible. Hillary Clinton had her own team of people, for Christ's sake. They all do. So it's very. You can imagine he's doing a piece to camera with this base behind him. Mail Online there, top secret UK army base. No, it's not. It's not top secret at all. It's clearly signposted. You can see where it is. It's not top secret at all. So that's, falsifying headline. Russian TV crew was caught spying at secret cyber warfare HQ in Berkshire, they say in that subtitle. Obviously they put spying in little quotes to let them say that, because it wasn't spying. It was literally just doing a piece to camera with the base in the background. Journalist was seen filming report close to the fence of top secret cyber base. Wrong! Not top secret at all, David Mail. Military chiefs issued an official security warning to commanders at all UK bases, because a journalist was doing a TV report, like we do in every other country we go to. Security cameras at the unit's base recorded Russian TV reporter Timur Suriasev making passes of the highly sensitive facility as a cameraman filmed from a car. This is getting to joke levels now. Joke levels. You've got obvious MI6 agents passing bogus information to the Guardian, who print it because Luke Harding and Dan Collins are pretty much, let's face it, poster boys for Operation Mockingbird right now. Not only have you got that, but when the people in the world go, that's bullshit, then you've got Politico writing articles from another spy intelligence person writing under a pseudonym, so another source that we can't verify, saying, oh, well, if it is wrong, it's all Russia's fault. And then you've got the Daily Mail scaring the shit out of right-wingers, supposedly, that Russians are coming over here and spying on all our bases. This is pathetic. It's pathetic. What the fuck happened to the media in this country? What the hell happened to them? Isn't there anybody out there, any mainstream journalistic enterprise out there that has got any morals whatsoever left? Is there any out there that are not filled with half the staff coming from MI6 or GHQ, or is there anybody left? Or is it just people like me screaming into a camera on YouTube? The media should be fucking ashamed of themselves as to what they're doing. They are mouthpieces to the establishment right now. It's disgusting. And I don't want to make the whole stream about this, so I'll cut it short now. I don't want to make the whole stream about how the media in this country are derelict in their duties, but for God's sake, guys, stop it, because you really are. It's cartoon level comedy now you're resorting yourselves to. Oh, Putin. Putin's buddy. I'm Putin's buddy. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that, mate. And thank you, Wave the Rules. That's very nice. Thank you all very, very much. That's the stories I've got for tonight, guys. It's been a long day of me watching. It's a long day of me been watching the absolute disaster unfold in the Houses of Parliament today. To be honest, I'm pretty sick of it all. I really am. But there are so many different ramifications of what could happen over the next few weeks. This is serious. What happened today was really serious. I don't think I realised the gravitas of what happened until a few hours after it passed and I'd started to digest everything. I do think, looking at it all, the only way to fix this is with a general election. The only way we're going to... I said on Twitter earlier, it's not even a comedy anymore. It's not even a comedy. I mean, the government have been found in contempt of Parliament. That's serious. It's not even funny. They're making the United Kingdom government look like the laughing stock of the world in a world where Trump is also a leader. Thank you, Way of the Rules. I appreciate that. Thanks, everyone. Print Me Up says, talk about Brexit, we could be on the brink of a civil war. I'm not sure about that. If they cancel it, that's the problem. If they can, because cancelling it would sort out a lot of their problems. But if they did, well, people would be pissed. I've often wondered what they're being taught in so-called journalist school, says Pam Ryan. I'm not sure, Pam. I mean, I'm not sure whether anybody at The Guardian or anything has been to journalist school at the moment. It seems to me that they all came through the fucking ranks at MI5. I mean, swear, it's just, what's the point of Luke Harding being at The Guardian? You know anything he prints is just going to come straight from GCHQ. What's the point in him even be there? Why don't you just let somebody at GCHQ write it and put it on their fucking website, not on The Guardian? And you certainly don't take what they're saying as true, especially if you look at Luke Harding's history, because his sources of all the information that they've given him going throughout history have been fucking wrong. All of them. Everything he's written has been bullshit. He's made a fortune. £700,000 he got, for his script that ended up being made into the Fifth Estate. £700,000. That's what I read. Luke Harding's script for the Fifth Estate. The rights to his book, which they made into the Fifth Estate, which was basically just a lynch job of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. They really tried to paint them in a bad light, but you watch the film and they still come out of it pretty good. Somebody in the chat just mentioned yellow vests. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I said earlier, Medicare for all in America. I know some of you folks will be from America and be supporting the push for Medicare for all. Learn from the French, America. Learn from the French. I'm a big fan of people like Carl Kalinske and the Humanist Report. They're great. Independent media outlets on YouTube. If you're not subscribed and you want to know what's going on in America in detail, then Carl Kalinske and Michael will set you straight. But they're always talking about the polling for Medicare for all going up. And it's great. They've got 85% support within the Democratic Party for Medicare for all. 54% of Republicans now support Medicare for all, and they're getting really excited, saying it's coming, it's coming. News flash, guys. 95% of people in America want background checks on guns. You're not fucking getting that either. It doesn't matter whether 99% of the country support Medicare for all. You're not fucking getting it. Not unless you get out in huge numbers and protest. Learn a lesson from the French. That's the only way you're going to get change in America. It's the only way you're going to get a national health service in America. And for Christ's sake, please do it. I've got friends in America who nearly died because of your system. who ended up being thousands of dollars in debt and they had insurance, by the way. They had insurance, caught cancer, and still had to pay $5,000. Had to go on GoFundMe to get, I think they call it the copay or something like that, or the deductible. $6,000 it was. That's how much he had to find. And he had insurance, and his insurance was through his employer. Cancer. It cost him thousands of dollars. Had to go on GoFundMe. I just can't. You got to get out in the streets. It's the only way it's going to happen. B Green says, I was disappointed to see that Harding's work was the basis for Oliver Stone film Snowden. Yeah, the Oliver Stone film Snowden, by the way, it's well known that Oliver Stone basically hardly used anything from his book, I believed. It was actually a pretty good movie, Snowden was. It was pretty accurate to what happened, and it being Oliver Stone, it's not surprising. But yeah, it's he departed quite far from what Harding had put in his book. Thank you, Tricia. Appreciate that. Jamie Rowe says, I used to subscribe to Kyle, but he did too many silly voices in videos. Yeah, he does do that. He tries to do an authoritative British accent, and it's just... I find it funny. $5,000 is cheap for a deductible, says Big Green. It might have been the copay, whatever it was. Whatever it was, he had insurance through his employer, and he had a rather aggressive form of cancer, gallbladder cancer, I think it was. You have to go and GoFundMe, man. Honestly, hand on heart, possibly the nicest, most welcoming, wonderful person I've ever met in my life. That's the way they treat them in America. You haven't got a system in America, a health system in America that makes people better. You've got a system in America that makes people richer. One Love says we should learn a lesson from the French when it comes to house prices and the general cost of living. Yellow jackets in the UK. It's coming, One Love. I said it in my video I did on the Extinction Rebellion. Get used to it. This is a global fight against neoliberalism. This is. It's what it is. It's a backlash against neoliberalism, and it's happening in all countries. And there are two sides in all countries. There are progressives and there are the far right, and they're all battling it. That's what the far right are battling as well. Global neoliberalism. The thought of, undemocratic, unelected elites controlling our country. Mission says agent provocateurs have infiltrated the Yellow Vest protests. Violence erupts and magically the authorities now have a license to destroy them. Standard formula. I didn't see any proof of. I heard allegations of it. I didn't see any proof of it. But then it's one of those things that are hard to prove. I think it's fair to say that sort of thing has gone on in lots of other protests around the world. It wouldn't be the first time that that's happened. Strangely, in France, from what I can tell from those protests, the left and the right were protesting together. I don't know whether people realise that from the media coverage in this country. It probably really didn't say. But the left and the right were protesting together. Think about that. When was the last time that happened in this country or in America? When that happens, change happens. You have to unite against a common enemy, or you have to unite for a common cause and throw your fucking ideology out the window. Come together on what you agree on, because they keep saying that the country is a divided nation. You know what? It's only divided on a few issues. We agree on the vast majority of things. We do. It's one of the reasons why when people come up to me, they say, I'm nowhere near you on the political scale, Gordon, but I agree with everything you say. It's because we actually agree on most things, the left and the right. We do. And we've got a common enemy. Neoliberalism. Left and right should drop their differences for fighting neoliberalism, says Subculture. There's a lot the left can learn from the right wing as well, with protesting. And I want to give you an example. Because even when the left are laughing at the right for what they can perceive to be a failed protest, the person who is said to be a failed protester, let me give you an example. Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer gets her blue check mark taken away on Twitter. Now, I don't think that they should be using that blue check mark as a reward system. They did this with Milo Yiannopoulos, took his blue check mark away. It's pathetic, it really is. I think if you're going to have a blue check mark on Twitter, it should be available to everybody to say, yes, I've verified I am a real person. I have proven I am a real person. That's what it should be. I think that's what it was meant to be. Anyway, Laura Loomer has her blue check mark taken away from her Twitter account for something that she did, because obviously she's always doing stuff to get attention and get in the news. But the thing is, she's got a point with this. So she goes and handcuffs herself to the offices at Twitter. She went and handcuffed herself. So the police come and say, do you want me to break the handcuffs to the people at Twitter? And Twitter say no. She can protest there as much as she wants. She can, So she ended up handcuffed to this door with nobody around her. And Twitter said, no, we ain't bothered. Leave her there if she wants. But everybody on the left were laughing at her. Ha ha! The police have said, we'll cut you free any time. Let us know if you want to cut us free. And that was it. Failed attempt, so they thought, at protesting. She was trending in the top 3-4 on Twitter all day long. All day long. How's that for getting your word out? Even when they fail, they still succeed at getting their point across. This is something the left has got to learn. Something that the left and the right could really help each other on. But then I suppose I'm a purist and I think everybody can get on with each other. Oh, and by the way, Momentum sucks, everyone. That organisation, it's so good. It's such a great movement, but Christ, their framing sucks in arguments. They have got protesters, Momentum protesters, going to Watford, somewhere in Watford, protesting David Icke. And David Icke, because of David Icke's anti-Semitism. Why couldn't they have gone a few miles down the road and stood vigil for fucking Julian Assange and stood up for free speech instead of protesting David Icke, who nobody cares about? Why are you doing that? I've got to do a video about it because there's something else that I did yesterday. I won't touch on it now, but there's something else I found out about Momentum yesterday that really pissed me off. It's like, come on. They're actively trying to shut down free speech. You're shutting down free speech, Momentum. Fucking stop it. I'll do a video about it on the next few days. I'm not happy about it. I don't think many of you will be either, because I know most of you are the same as me when it comes to freedom of speech. Doesn't matter. Let people speak, no matter what they say, unless they're inciting violence or anything. The focus must be on peace, unity and equality. That sounds great to me, Rex the Younger. That sounds great. Pam Ryan says, what don't Momentum not understand about the abuses of identity politics? This is what the video is going to be about, Pam. Because they've got some serious problems. Serious problems. Because if they carry on with this, I mean, they're obviously a powerful organisation, remember, within the Labour movement. If they carry on with this, they're going to alienate people like me away from them. Especially with their silencing people's voices who they don't like, people's voices who nobody fucking listens to. You want to protest something, go down the road and protest Julian Assange, not outside bloody David Icke's front door. Subculture again says David Icke is an idiot in some respects, but he gets some things right. Exactly, he does get some things right. He gets a lot of things right that the media smear him for, and it's like, well, he's getting that right. But he said something against the establishment, didn't he? So he's a pariah. Now he said some pretty crazy stuff in the past, but again, I've only heard it third hand. I haven't heard it, from his own words. I don't know whether these words have been taken out of context or twisted or spun. I suspect there's a lot of that gone on. But why are you protesting David Icke? Why are you protesting against free speech? Go a couple of miles down the road and fucking stand up for free speech, not the other way round. David Icke can say what the hell he wants as long as he's not inciting violence or it's hate speech, so to speak. He can say what he wants. And even if he does say it, very few people are fucking listening to him. Momentum sucks when it comes to that sort of thing. Alright, I'm going to just come to the... I cancelled my Momentum membership over this issue. Pam, that's a shame, man. They are going to alienate people against them. They really are. From what I can tell, there are a lot of young people. The cult of Corbyn in Momentum. You can really see that coming out. And, I've got a big problem against this with these social justice warriors. I really have. Because they give ammunition to the right to fire at them that hits. Mick Hill says, I don't think it's the official Momentum, Gordon. It's, I think, a group attached to who want to take them there. No, it's the official Momentum. And official Momentum actually tweeted out the pictures of the guys protesting outside David Icke's. I had something to say about it to them. They didn't reply. Yeah, it was Momentum. They were supporting it. Mission says David Icke seems to be the UK's Alex Jones, but Momentum is capitulating to the neo-libs. Oh man, guys, I've got to show you something. I'm sorry. Mission, thanks for reminding me, mate. This is it's something I saw the other day. This is worrying. It's worrying. Just look at this.
Jack Dorsey. Frogs aren't gay. Atrazine's good. There's not a chemical program to reduce fertility. InfoWars is sorry. Please let us back on Twitter. Google, let us back on. We're sorry, frogs are not gay. Atrazine is good. InfoWars back. Thank you, tech leader.
Somebody needs to check on him. He's not there. He's not there. This is one of the reasons why you shouldn't deplatform somebody like Alex Jones, because he's so entertaining. So entertaining. I mean, have you seen that? Have you seen that video? I can't share it actually because I know I'll get a copyright strike of that. But have you seen that video? Somebody did a parody of him and wrote a song with the exact words that he said about Hillary Clinton. And go and look it up. Alex Jones folk indie song or something like that. Yeah, he's not well. Alex Jones isn't. He really needs. People really need to. Somebody needs to check on him. Right, let me just set up this last thing,
What about
guys.
the people? I'm not. And what is?
Because over the weekend, I you have a warped sense of humour, says Keith. I do. I can't help it. That's just hilarious. And that, honestly, that after this is finished, go to Google, type in Alex Jones indie folk song. If you haven't heard it, you will thank me later. But I watched over the weekend. It's not a segment or anything. It's just how I'm going to finish the stream. Because I watched over the weekend, I started watching Newsroom again. Now, I don't know whether... If you haven't seen The Newsroom, which was on HBO, I think, a few years ago, it was excellent. It was an excellent, excellent program. And it's all about a cable TV network in America who started to do the news properly. And all the pushback and the stories that went on around them. And they talked about real life stories that had, I think that had happened the year before, and the whole program was constructed as if it was in real time while these events were taking place. And there's at the very beginning of the first episode, there's a speech by Jeff Daniels, and I'm no doubt most of you will have seen it now. And it's a speech about he's asked, why is America the greatest country in the world? And in the end he says it's not, and he goes on a big speech, and it's about 3.5 minutes long, and honestly it's probably the best first 3.5 minutes of a TV program I've ever seen. It was just, the speech was fantastic. But in that first episode there's also another speech later on in the program, and I want to play it because it's not Jeff Daniels who actually says it. He's in the scene, but it's actually the Mackenzie, the woman who did the speech. And I want to show this because this is what she says in this speech is what the media, what the press should be, and what they should hold dear to them, and what they should hold important. But they're not. They're writing stuff for Luke Harding to put out in The Guardian. They're writing psyop bullshit pieces for Politico, as I explained earlier. So I just want to show you this just at the end of the stream, just to show you what I think we're fighting for in independent media. It's summed up perfectly in this little clip.
And what does winning look like to you?
Reclaiming the fourth estate. Reclaiming journalism as an honourable profession. A nightly newscast that informs a debate worthy of a great nation. Civility, respect, and a return to what's important. The death of bitchiness, the death of gossip and voyeurism. Speaking truth to stupid. No demographic sweet spot, a place where we all come together. We're coming to a tipping point. I know you know that. There's going to be a huge conversation. Is government an instrument of good, or is it every man for himself? Is there something bigger we want to reach for, or is self-interest our basic resting pulse? You and I have a chance to be among the few people who can frame that debate.
It's...
Quixotic?
I thought that was a brilliant speech because she nailed what the media should be. And she pretty much nailed why I'm here and what I try and do. Give you the facts and give you opinions based on what we know to be true and not from an angle. You might get me being biased, can't help it. That's going to come out, but I will be objective, and that's something that is sorely lacking in the media and all the other things she said there. And like she ended that we're on the verge of something, and we are, because the media are derelict in their duties. They're part of the problem now. They're the fifth column, not the fourth estate. And there's only one way we're going to be able to fight back against that, and that's with independent media exploding. And fortunately, it does seem to be happening, and it's happening because of you. And I want to thank you all for it, and thank you all for your support. I think that's everything for this tonight, for this stream, everyone. Subculture would say something really important. You do a great job, obviously, that's really important, thank you for that. And he said there, even when I disagree. And I do want to say that to people. I want to say, hey, it's okay to disagree with me. It's okay. Sometimes I'm going to be wrong. Sometimes I am. Taboo is human. But I'll do my best. I'll do my best to bring you the facts and try and cut through the bullshit and the spin and the media sycophantic lickspittles who, let's face it, they might as well just have a megaphone from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office with regards to foreign policy, and with regards to anything going on in number 10. They may as well just publish the script, publish whatever script has been written directly from the government. They don't hold them to power anymore. I think that's everything. Alright guys and ladies, thank you very much for joining me. Hour and a half, it's not too bad. I love you all. Thank you very much for your support. Like I say, I cannot do this without you. I'm astounded with the support I get, and it makes me want to get better at what I'm doing. And I really want to say thank you to you all for doing that and sort of giving my life meaning, not to become too wishy-washy. Love you all, everyone. Peace. I'll see you all soon.